Where do they come from?
We're honored to have Alice Weingartner with us this morning, along with John Dykus, but Alice is in charge of Grace Med, and we're thrilled to have her here this morning. And would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, Alice?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the June 10th, 2019 meeting of the Shawnee County Board of Commissioners. My name is Bob Archer. I currently have the honor of serving as chair of the commission and represent District 3 alongside Commissioner Bill Rippon, who represents District 1, and Commissioner Kevin Cook, who represents District 2. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning. First item of business, please.
First items under proclamations, presentations. Number 1, recognition of Capital Federal and Capital Federal Foundation as the title sponsor for the Spirit of Kansas scheduled at Lake Shawnee.
Good morning, Commissioners. Randy Luby with Parks and Recreation. And we're here today for a check presentation from Capital Federal. I did want to touch a little bit of the history we had. You recall after 9/11, we had a very, very difficult time that following year trying to find sponsorship for the Spirit of Kansas. I really thought it was in jeopardy that we weren't even going to be able to have it. But Cap Fed, along with John Dykus and Tammy Dishman, stepped up to the plate, and they've been our title sponsor ever since. I believe that's been 18 years in a row with that, and I can't be more pleased to be a partner with Capital Federal for this event. I really feel this event is a trademark of Topeka and Shawnee County, and is still the best fireworks show in the Midwest. So I really appreciate that. With that, I'll turn it over to John and Tammy.
Andy makes it easy on that. Yeah, I guess I should have this down after 18 years, but we are proud to be back for 18 years to be a part of the Shawnee County Spirit of Kansas Festival. I should have that speech down, but without the teleprompter, I don't have that down there. But we're proud to be a part of that and put $25,000 toward the fireworks display at Lake Shawnee on July 4th, and look forward to another great celebration of the Spirit of Kansas Festival. That's all I got.
Well, I'll give the other commissioners a chance to speak, and then I'll say something. Bill?
Well, thanks for this gracious donation. This is great. It keeps a great event, just keeps it rolling along, and we're looking forward to it.
As always, we're very grateful for everything that Capital Federal has done and your commitment to the community, not just with the Spirit of Kansas, but overall. I mean, everything that we see happening in Topeka, we know that Capital Federal has a big role in helping that happen, and so we're very grateful for that. Commissioner Archer, I will let you know that WWW will give you a little box to stand on so you can come up to John's height, so the two of you look relatively the same height.
Well, all righty then. John, thank you. It never gets old saying thank you to Capital Federal and your community partnership on the Spirit of Kansas. As Commissioner Cook said, almost every aspect of our community and our life is impacted by Capital Federal. And it's sincerely appreciated. And if it's okay, can we stand up
Sure.
and get our picture taken?
I don't think I dressed for the occasion.
Oh, that's quite all right. I hide behind where is it first. Sir, would you like to?
And I hope that headlines the news tonight. Next item of business, please.
Two under proclamations, presentations, quarterly report on Grace Med. Alice Weingartner, Director of Community Development, Grace Med.
Good morning, Commissioners. Alice Weingartner with Grace Med. I apologize for the sound of my voice. It's that summer cold thing. This is our quarterly report for 2019, our first quarter report, and it had some really exciting data that I was really happy to share with you all. With the addition of dental, we obviously knew we would see an increase in patients. And again, with the addition of having a new facility for our medical care, that has also helped. But what was really exciting to see was that in the first quarter of 2019, we saw just over 1,000 unduplicated patients. And in the first quarter of 2019, we've seen almost 5,000 unduplicated patients. So that to me is just a sign that the transition that took place now almost 3 years ago was really a good thing and a very positive aspect for our community. And we know that we'll continue to see those numbers grow as well. The other exciting news is we did start our vision services in May. So Dr. Mark Judd is now seeing patients at our Capital Family Clinic. Dr. Lauren Poole is a pediatrician. She actually finished her training last week in Wichita and is seeing patients as of today at our Capital Family Clinic. I almost said Capital Federal, but at our Capital Family Clinic. So that gives us 2 pediatricians, one at each of our clinic locations here in Topeka, which again just helps ensure easier access for folks needing that service. In March, we did have our first fundraiser, our Hotcakes for Hope Care, and each of you were extremely helpful in that event, and hopefully we'll see you again at our next event. We did raise almost $9,000 for that event, and those are funds that do help support our patient voucher program for those individuals who might need assistance with their health care costs. This has been a really busy month for us as well. On June 4th, we hosted a pop-up event to try to help connect individuals to services that they need. And we're really trying to create this as an event so they're not just coming and gathering information, they're coming and actually getting a service completed. So like getting their library card, getting their picture ID to ride the bus, getting an appointment scheduled with Grace Med, so making it a really proactive event. And this is something we plan to do periodically as well. Excuse me. On June 12th, which is this week, we are hosting the Greater Topeka Partnership Power Breakfast in conjunction with Folston Law Firm. So that event will be taking place. And then that afternoon, we're also going to be participating in the Topeka Day of Giving. And this is the event that was developed by the Topeka Performing Arts Center. And that'll be taking place from 2 to 8. And lastly, again, opening our facility and really inviting the community in. We're hosting a doula meet and greet program in conjunction with the Topeka Doula Project. So again, we just really want to be active in the community, inviting folks in who may not necessarily be patients yet, but once they see what we're capable of, they may decide to pick Grace Med as their healthcare home. So I'd be happy to answer questions.
I've said on several occasions that partnering with Grace Med was one of the best things that this commission's done since I've been on it, and maybe one of the best things in the history of the commission in Shawnee County. It's worked out so well. And you talked about 5,000 patients in the first quarter. I remember when the FQHC was in Shawnee County, we saw 5,000 for the year.
Correct.
For the year.
Correct.
And I know your goals are really high to serve the community, and I just want to say thank you. My hat's off to Grace Med and your leadership.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Cook?
Alice, we're almost a year into the opening from the main facility. Are there some things that we maybe need to look at or community needs that you might, how is the building coming along?
I walk into that building every day with a sense of pride and a sense of ownership, and I think all of our staff does that as well. Even the patients themselves walk in and are in awe of what is here for them in the community. We continue to seek funding to support some of the new equipment that we need to purchase. We're in the process of putting a garage up in the back of the facility for our outreach vehicles. So as far as the capital expenses, that's where the community support continues to be really important. The other thing that's important, and by reaching out to a lot of the different civic groups in the community, is making sure that there's an awareness of who Grace Med is, so that they can then become those ambassadors and invite patients to the community, or let their loved ones know that there is a place for them to come and seek care. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, I really love the location where you are and the use of a vacant building, and I think it gives you a source of community pride to have a nice facility in that location. And my hat's off to you with the success that you've had, and thank you very much.
Commissioner Rippon, you're exactly right. Being in that area has created a lot of conversation for other services and things that need to be created in that community. And so I think over the next few years, we'll really see a continued transformation of Tennessee Town and central Topeka to meet the needs of those that live there.
And I think I saw this morning that you're going to participate in Community Day of Giving also.
We are, yes. We will have a table there, 2 o'clock Wednesday afternoon until 8 o'clock Wednesday night.
Very good.
Yep.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Alice.
you.
Next item of business, please.
Item 3, consent
There
agenda.
were 6 items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments?
I'll move for approval as presented.
Second.
Motion made to approve the consent agenda by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Under Bridge Project, Finian Turnip Seed, $54,200 is for the construction inspection for Southwest 37th Street over tributary to Shunga Creek. Under Equipment Fund, KBS Contractors, Inc., $77,481 is for courtroom renovations for room 300 and 311. Total vouchers as of June 7th, 2019, $590,490.63. And I move that we approve the vouchers.
Second.
Motion made to approve the vouchers by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move to approve the correction orders.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item B, Parks and Recreation number 1, consider authorization and execution of the following. A, Contract C-216-2019 with Boy Scout Troop number 193B for assistance with vehicle parking for the 2019 Spirit of Kansas fireworks event at Lake Shawnee at a cost of $1,200, available from the 2019 operating budget. B, Contract C-217-2019 with LaborMax to provide temporary staffing for maintenance during the 2019 Spirit of Kansas event at a cost of $1,414.40, available from the 2019 operating fund. And C, Resolution number 2019-35, permitting Parks and Recreation to collaborate with various county and city departments on the temporary traffic signs and barricades necessary for public safety associated with traffic flow for the Spirit of Kansas.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sean Osborne, Parks and Recreation. The 3 items before you are all 3 items that are key elements within the Spirit of Kansas. The first item, which is using the Scout Troop to help us with parking. That takes place on the west side of the lake, and we've had that in place for the last few years. And item B is with LaborMax. That is to bring in an additional group of individuals that can help us keep the park clean late in the afternoon and evening with the bathrooms. And then The third item is basically collaborating with the city, the sheriff, emergency management, and everything to create a awesome exit plan and safety within the event for the evening for traffic flow. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Sean?
I have none.
I move that we approve.
I'll second on all three, correct?
3.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item C, Health Department, number 1, consider approval of request to fill a purchasing specialist 2 position at a salary including benefits of $58,688, and to fill any position that becomes vacant as a result of filling this one.
Hi, Commissioners. Nancy Mitchell with the Health Department, and we are requesting a Purchasing Specialist 2 position. This is in both the 2019 and 2020 budgets. This is essential to the functioning of the Health Department. They order all of our supplies and process all of our invoices for the clerk's office. They are also our timekeepers so review all of the time that everybody submits, make sure everybody gets paid as they're supposed to. So, any questions?
Question?
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
3-0. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
This is an opportunity for any department head or member of the public to address the commission this morning.
Want to get in here before Joe does. Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works and Solid Waste. I just wanted to announce that as of last Friday, Pump Station 60 is complete. As you know, that pump station was fully funded by user fees for those that are served by the Sherwood Wastewater Treatment System. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt.
Good morning, Commissioners. Linda Oakes from the Health Department. Last week, I announced a child care licensing orientation, and we talked a little bit about the needs. So I just wanted to give you a couple of charts to show why we are doing this, what we're seeing as far as shortages. I will say that our epidemiologist, Lynn Lee, created all these charts you're going to see today. So we're able to really use data to drive programming. So this is a chart that shows the number of child care facilities in Shawnee County from 2014 to 2018. And I will call your attention especially to the green line. That is a licensed daycare home. So you can see the child care centers and group daycare homes have stayed pretty steady, but we've seen a pretty good decrease in home daycare. And it's not working. Well, this isn't going to work either. Let's try this. Okay, so this chart is just the licensed daycare homes, and it has the raw numbers. So we had 283 licensed daycare homes in 2014, and now we're down to 221. So again, a pretty sharp decrease in what we've seen as far as daycare homes. This is a map with a lot of dots, and I know it looks kind of busy, but I'm going to break it down for you in just a minute. This is the location of all the child care facilities in Shawnee County, and it has all the licensed daycare homes, the group daycare homes, the centers, and the other child care facilities, which are like Head Start, after-school care. So I'm going to take those out because those really aren't what we are trying to look at. This map, I think, is more telling. This is the map that shows the highest rates of childhood poverty and then the locations of child care, daycare centers, group centers, and homes. So you can see in the dark green, oh, now it's going to work. This is the highest childhood poverty, but very few child care facilities there. They're mostly grouped over here on the west and the south side. So that is our concern, is, as I mentioned, we may be seeing some child care deserts. I don't want to call them that yet. This shows median family income, and again, your lower areas right here, you have less child care available, lots more on this side of town. So this is the reason we started looking at this and what we need to do to help parents in Shawnee County. So we are having this free childcare orientation. We're partnering with Child Care Aware of Eastern Kansas to put on this orientation. It is tomorrow at the Hillcrest Community Center. So we're over on that side of town where we're seeing the fewer child care facilities. It will be from 1 to 3:30. We'll have some refreshments. It is completely free. So we're hoping that anyone who has ever considered maybe being a child care provider, it's a great time to come and learn what is involved and see if they would be interested in it. So I just wanted to share a little bit of that data with you so you could see why we are doing this kind of programming. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Linda? Yes, Commissioner Coates.
Linda, the areas that you marked in the dark green where we have very few licensed childcare facilities.
Yes.
We know that there's childcare going on in those areas, whether it's family, friends, or neighbors. They're just not licensed.
Right.
Who needs to be licensed? Why should they be licensed? Why should they come to your meeting tomorrow?
Okay, so there are some exceptions to licensure. If you're watching a relative, if you're watching a certain number of children under so many hours, there are some exceptions, but for the most part, anyone who's doing childcare needs to be licensed. And the reason is because there is oversight and training. So this is such an important time in a child's life. We've talked a lot about those first early years and how much brain development goes on. So we don't want children just watched. We want them interacted with. We want them to be playing with games and activities that help them develop. We want them to have that interaction. We want them read to. And so I'm not saying that friends and neighbors don't do that and relatives, but this way people are trained. We have training available for people to really learn the best way to interact with children at this age. This time, you can't get it back. If we don't intervene and get these children, get all children that intervention, that relationship building, the reading done at that time, it's really difficult to make up for it later. It's all about school readiness and career readiness and the cradle to career work we're doing with Momentum 2022.
Okay, thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Linda. Anyone else? Next item, please. Oh,
Morning, Commissioners.
good morning, Joe.
And thank you, Kurt, for your great comments. I think Kurt's going to live up to Tom Block. That's a high compliment. We'll see. I'm here this morning to discuss the words of the county and the city, not my words, but these words that I make comments on are my words only. I am a member of the Parks and Rec Advisory, and I've been that for about 3 years now. Got reappointed by Councilwoman Ortiz. There's been a lot of discussion about Parks and Rec, its role as part of place, its role as a backbone of this community, as part of quality of life. And so I thought I would go back and look at the original contract between the city and the county. And I brought copies. If I may approach the chair.
Certainly.
1, 2, and 3. Those should be in order. It's about 20 pages. A lot of it's made up of attachments of the parks and flower beds that were transferred. And I'd just like to point out that recently there was a discussion about Potwin Circles. And if you go down to item 95, it's towards the back on attachment A. Clearly, those were transferred to the county by the city, and they were to be maintained. There's a number of attachments listed as flower beds, and in reviewing a number of those flower beds, they have not been maintained. 20th and Oakley, Hillside, which is in my neighborhood, those flower beds have not been there since Parks and Rec took over. I don't know exactly what year they took them out or didn't maintain them, but they need to be maintained. Clearly in the the contract itself, which was dated August 2nd of 2011, contact person Councilman Archer, second Parks and Rec, consolidation, and it appears that the city was well represented in putting this contract together with the county, making sure that the city's needs were met about maintenance of their facilities that they were transferring, and that a complete list was given of flower beds to be maintained as flower beds, additional other properties, parks, trails, bike trails, things like that. If you go to page 2 of the contract, paragraph D and E, the word maintenance continually comes up. All maintenance and upkeep shall be done by the county. And these are not permissive, these are shall. And one of the concerns I've had on Parks and Rec advisory is that we have not been part of budgets on an ongoing fashion unless we interjected ourselves. We have continually asked for more and more maintenance money to be spent on Parks and Rec. But the word deferred maintenance probably should have never entered the vocabulary because things should have been kept up all along, and the maintenance should have been done all along, according to this contract. So these are not my words, these are the words of the contract between the city and the county. Now, this was ratified by 3 county commissioners, and it was ratified by the county, or the city council, signed off by a city manager, and signed off by a mayor at that time. So my concern is, now I'm hearing about we're going to spend more money, more bonds in a certain part of the county that has never been brought up officially to the advisory. We have not had a discussion about it. We might be for it, but I'd like you to review page 6 and 7 of the contract, where it talks about the role of the advisory board, and I'll just read. County and Shawnee County Parks and Rec Department shall consult with the advisory board regarding major proposals and propositions for construction, reconstruction, and improvement of public parks and recreations in the city and county, including any acquisition. And if you recall, last year we talked about trying to acquire Camp Daisy, which was a remarkable bargain at that time. It was 155 acres. We did not succeed at this level, but we did take it to the advisory, and they did advise that we do that. And then we found out later there was a whole lot of reserve money that we didn't know about that would have been available if we would have known. Nonetheless, the county still might not have done it. But these budgets, all proposals and propositions shall be taken under consideration by the advisory board, and such advisory board shall make reports and recommendations to Shawnee County Parks and Rec and the county on all matters referred, and may make further reports and recommendation to County Parks and Rec Director and the county as the advisory deems advisable. Shawnee County Parks and Rec shall regularly consult with advisory board on such matters as department budget, capital projects, department policies, any proposed programming changes, and any other matters determined with the Parks and Rec Director to be of interest to the advisory board. So that's any other. But those are inclusive in this language. My concern, and I've talked to several others, I have not talked to the entire advisory board about this, and I do intend to make them aware of this contract, is that it always seemed right to me, without even going back to the contract, that everything that was transferred to the county by the city would be maintained. It's a shell part of this provision. And as we go forward in future budgets, we have got to have all the maintenance we need. And if that includes bonds to get caught up, then that includes bonds. And we gave a proposal through Parks and Rec Advisory that we voted on back in February, and it passed. And I want to make sure everybody has this. May I approach the chair?
Sure.
This is the front and back. And I've been told that some of the county commissioners got it and some didn't. Let me give one to the county clerk for the record so they know what I'm discussing. And just for the record, I do want to say that I am talking about a contract between the city and county, and it's called contract number 41460, and it was dated August 2nd of 2001. Now, when I go back and look at this document, I believe it's a pretty complete document. I believe that everything that I would have wanted in that negotiation was put in by the councilman or councilman who negotiated this. So all we're asking for, or all I'm asking for myself, this is me again, what I'm asking for as a citizen and somebody who lobbied for this consolidation is that this contract be enforced and be followed. I am starting to hear complaints from public people and from citizens that they want Parks and Rec to be well-maintained. That includes park equipment that's been taken out of a number of our parks and not replaced. That if that was done, and if the flower beds were put back in, and if we could have a discussion about some of the hours on some of the recreation centers, and then build the Adventure Cove, which a lot of people want, and do some further maintenance at Gage Park, i.e. the amphitheater, and then in additionally, upgrade our shelter houses, and we've got about 20 of them. And I was in Snyder the other day, and it was very dated and needed painted. Gutter system was broken on the outside. It was raining. The kitchen looked like it hadn't been updated since perhaps the 70s. But if we would do some of that updating, then I think the public would be a lot happier. And I honestly think we're only talking a few $1 million to get these things done. Now, it might be 5 or 6, it might be 7. But it's incumbent upon the county and the city to make sure this agreement is fulfilled. And a large part of that is maintenance. So, again, I want to thank you for your time. These are really not my words, they're the words of a ratified document between the governments. And I would remind you that you've done many ratified documents between your government through JADO. I haven't seen any of those undone that I recall. So this one certainly has that importance. And quite frankly, it affects a lot of people. We've got about 125,000 people that live in the city of Topeka. And most of them are central, southwest, and east. And we certainly have some in the north, and I'm not discounting that. We have a number of facilities spread completely across the city, but we're not seeing the new playground equipment put in. We're not seeing park benches maintained in certain parks, and I can send you pictures. A lot of this stuff is not that expensive to do, but when you collectively disregard it, it just appears like a lot of lack of maintenance, and that starts to affect people's attitude about some of the parks. Now, some of them are still well maintained, but we must maintain all of them, and that's what this agreement clearly calls for. So I just want to thank you for your time. I'm glad I got a copy of this and could look at it, and I'm sure that your intent is to fulfill it, hopefully this year, and get everything done, get it all caught up. Any questions of me?
Questions or comments for Mr. Ledbetter? Commissioner Cook?
Mr. Ledbetter, I agree with the majority of your comments and concerns. That being said, I think that this is a document that needs to be a living, breathing document if we determined that a flower bed could be replaced with something that would be more in meeting the needs of the community, we shouldn't be bound by having a flower bed there because a flower bed had always been there. We need to be flexible. If pieces of equipment need to be taken out because of safety concerns, there should be an explanation as to why that playground equipment is no longer safe to the community, and then replaced with something that would be also used by the community. And I think that's been a concern as we remove things, not really communicating why they're being removed. Things that we would have thought, or Commissioner Archer would have thought to be safe when he was a child, we now may look upon as being really not meeting the safety standards of a child today. But it worked out fine for you. But
Wow.
I think, though, we need to look at also, there were $3 million set aside to Parks and Recreation from reserves money, and that has not been fully expended yet. That's still ongoing, and it's not that the commission has not heard the needs of Parks and Recreation. Those needs are being heard, and hopefully the Parks and Recreation office can make a presentation very shortly on the $3 million that was set aside, where that money has gone to, what projects were able to be addressed, and what needs still remain. Not just, and I think that lastly, after the consolidation, the county became aware that there were some facilities that needed a lot more attention than what they originally knew. Ward Mead comes to mind, that upon the consolidation by the county, the needs of Ward Mead really became much more known to the county, and there's been a lot of work that's been done at Ward Mead to bring it up to a level that it should have been at long before the consolidation. But I'm sure Commissioner Rippon can speak more to that, having been at Ward Mead and being very closely associated.
Sure. Well, we didn't have a very big budget at that time to work with things. We did the best we could out there. I agree with you that some of these things, we need to be flexible in some of these, some of the things that are listed in this contract. Because there are times when equipment's removed from a park. I don't necessarily feel like it always has to be replaced. Sometimes something will be taken out and it's not being used. Why put something back in if it's not being used? But I'd like to see some flexibility in how we read this and how we go forward with this. There's 130 parks now or something like that. There's always going to be maintenance somewhere out there. It's ongoing, it's continuous, and I could go out any day and find maintenance problems, and I think we do a pretty good job of staying on top of those things, but it's never ending. And it's not like we could spend $1 million and it's going to be corrected in. The next year, there'll be more things that surface. It just happens all the time. So, it is what it is.
I'd like to speak to that, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
On the issue of flower beds, neighborhoods were not notified that those were going to be taken out. And those do affect property values at 20th and Oakley, is what I'm thinking about. Another one's at Hillside, which is in my neighborhood. That neighborhood would look a lot better if we had flower beds in these little parcels. And I don't know how much they would cost, because I drove by the greenhouse in Gage Park the other day, and it's full of flowers that haven't gone out yet. So I think that you have a way to run these ideas back to the community, and it's called the advisory board. That's why we're appointed by these council people, to try to help these neighborhoods with their interaction with the county and how these parks are kept up. The other thing I'd like to say is that when we replace, when equipment needs replaced, yes, something of like value or like kind should be back in that park. I'm thinking of some parks that, I'm thinking of one that got transferred by the county. I don't think it went through the advisory that I'm aware of. I wasn't on it, but it was the Maud Bishop Park. And 501 has taken that equipment. We don't know what they did with it. but the area is completely fenced off, and none of the kids in that neighborhood now have a playground to use. And the basketball court was bulldozed. So I think there comes a time and a place where you have an advisory council, why not consult with us about what is needed and ask for input? And we might even help you raise money if we just knew of the needs. But what I'm seeing is equipment taken from Country Club Park, and there's a lot of kids in that neighborhood. It's not been replaced. I'm looking at other parks like Seabrook, a lot of kids around that neighborhood off Gage, and that park equipment, a lot of it has been removed and not replaced. I guess you kind of got to look at it a little more as a kid and not so much as an adult, but see what the kids want. You know, one of the things that concerns me about this community is we're losing population. And as I talk to young families, they want these parks to have playground equipment where they can take their kids. They want the bike trails to be maintained so they can bicycle on the bike trails and not the roads with their kids. We went from I've gone back and looked at the numbers. We went from a combined budget of 18 million. John Knight told me at the worst moments a few years ago, they were down to 12.5 million. When I looked at that number, I said there is no number for maintenance of any kind in that budget. And thank God we've got an advisory council. We've done some hard work to try to get these things brought before the attention of the council or the commission and make sure that maintenance gets done. And I've sent a lot of iPhone pictures about projects that were slow or projects that needed finished or projects that weren't being done, repairs that weren't being made, including over at Ward Mead. Before I finish, one thing I'd like to point out is on the issue of the concern of bonds. I went back and looked at where the bonds have been issued and in Parks and Rec since the consolidation. And I only found 150 bonds, or 1,000 in bonds issued in the existing city Parks and Rec system, other than the water park at 21st and Urish. So 150,000 bonds doesn't go very far throughout that entire system. We were told last year if we were just patient, we would see bonds used to upgrade our parks across the city, which includes the county. And we certainly want the Adventure Cove out at Lake Shawnee, and we've discussed that at the advisory. But when I look at the language, the advisory council is to be consulted on capital budgets, all budgets. We're to make recommendations. It doesn't mean you have to take our recommendations, but we at least have a process here that is in the contract that it appears is to be followed. And that's my appeal to these commissioners, to you, the commission, this board, is to make sure that these processes are followed so that anything you're going to bring forward this year or next year, we have a discussion about and we can have some input about and get some input from the public, including the council members that have appointed us. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions. I do have a few comments. As Commissioner Rippon said, it's a continuous effort to maintain our property, and as Commissioner Cook pointed out, we just allocated $3 million for deferred maintenance and maintenance of items. And it's not easy maintaining a park system that we have. The discussion about bonds, I doubt there will be any bonds issued for the next year or two. I'm looking at budgets going into next year, and I don't see that. But we haven't had a budget discussion yet, so we'll see what happens.
Okay.
I don't know who talks to you and complains about Parks and Rec, but they don't talk to me, because what I get back is positive feedback that our parks and recreation programs are far better than they ever were before consolidation. So I don't know who you're hearing from, but if they want to talk to me or write me or call me, they're more than I'm glad to talk to them about it because I'm not getting the feedback you obviously are. As far as spending money in the different quadrants, I refer to the master plan, and it said what was needed is there is an overwhelming concern over the lack of parks and recreation facilities on the west and southwest areas of the county. The general perception is that these parts of the county are being underserved, and addressing this issue needs to be a top priority. When the master plan broke down the county into quadrants, it said quadrant 1 is northwest, quadrant 2 is northeast, quadrant 3 is southwest, and quadrant 4 is southeast. And looking at the opportunities for Parks and Rec to participate and attendance and opportunities, in quadrant number 1, northwest, there were 600,147. In quadrant number 2, northeast, there were 495,923 opportunities. In the southwest, quadrant 3, there were 151,145. In southeast, in quadrant 4, Shawnee County Parks opportunities to participate, 1,441,018. Now, that shows me that there's an imbalance in Parks and Rec that was identified in the master plan, and that's one of the things, in addition to maintaining our properties across the county, that's one thing that needs to be addressed.
And the master plan talked about maintenance? I'll have to go back and recheck
Yes, it talked
that
about.
we want to make sure that maintenance is always done.
Of course.
As per the contract. Well, thank you for those comments. I do want to tell you, I absolutely, probably more than just about anybody in this room, have given a lot of volunteer time in the last couple of years to Parks and Rec. And I very much believe in it, and I very much want to see it move forward. And I'll continue to talk about maintenance that has to be done. So thank you, sir. Thank you, board. Appreciate your comments,
We
and
appreciate your service in bringing this to
all
our
right.
attention. Look forward to seeing you at the budget hearings.
I will be there. Thank
Next
you.
item, Commissioner Cook, anything to add?
Not to Mr. Ledbetter's comments, but as far as administrative communications go, last Friday, we did host the Girls State. They learned about local government, whether it was through the elected officials, treasurer's office, sheriff's office, register of deeds, the clerk, the district attorney, the sheriff, and also the county commission. If this is a reflection of the young people that are coming up through the state of Kansas, we're in very good hands. It was a very well-attended, very bright, very knowledgeable group of young ladies. So, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rippon.
I need to apologize to
Oh,
Commissioner Cook. I originally intended on helping out with the Girls State, but Mom trumps Girls State. So I went back home for a few days. So.
Very good. I don't have anything to add. Next item of business, please.
Item 6, executive session.
There's not a need for an executive session, so we're officially adjourned. Thank you all for attending today. Tired?
A little bit.
Huh?
Yeah, a little bit. This contract